Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we're coming to you from Washington, D.C. on a week-to-week basis, looking at 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products as we move towards the 21st century. And as we go to 2050 and we have about 9 billion people on the planet, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people, and especially for water? And we're going to be talking about a very instructive program that's going on right now as we're looking to address the water issue on the African continent, all 54 nations, and now there's about 1.2 billion people on the continent, and maybe as many as 60% of these are under 30 years of age. So it's a very young population, very dynamic, and very diverse cultures. And we have a gentleman that's coming on that's going to be talking about this whole topic of water and what they're doing to help to take care of all that. This is John Renouard. He is the founder and director of what's called Water, Health, and Opportunity Lives, or abbreviated WHOLives. And he's coming in by Skype, and then sitting right beside me is his main partner out there in Utah, and this is Chris Tibbetts. And he is the Director of Global Development for Water, Health, and Opportunity Lives, WHOLives, and also the Village Drill.
Yes.
Chris, glad to have you with us.
Thanks, Sam. Good to be here.
And John, I understand you're here by Skype. You're already with us?
Yeah, I'm here, ready to go.
All right, buddy. I know you're always ready to go.
Yes.
Anyway, it's good to see you, and thank you for being here. And we're going to kick off with a video, and I think this is really going to set the tone of what we're going to talk about, John, and thank you for sharing this. This is what's called baseline, and this is all about in 30 meters. I'm going to let you describe what that means, the difference between life and death. So we can have the video, very instructive, and John will be right back.
The distances that they have to travel, on average, it's between 2 and 3 kilometers every day. And again, you're talking about basically a jerry can, a 5-gallon bucket. The weight of that water is about 42 pounds. And just to repeat it the day after and the day after and the day after. No time to play. There's no energy to play. There's no energy to go to school. There's no time to be a child, because they're in this daily enslavement of having to fetch water for the family. So a lot of people are under the impression that there's not a lot of water in Africa. And actually the opposite is true. There's more water on the African continent than there is in America. The problem is simply access. Most of the water, quite frankly, is just 30 or 40 meters under the ground. And you think about how short that distance is. You think about how far, where are you when you walk 30 steps? Are you at your mailbox? Are you at your neighbor's house? Have you gone from one store to another in the mall? That's all we're talking. That's the distance between life and death. It's 30 meters to get to this water. Clean, crystal clean, healthy water. The only innovation that we've had are these big water drilling trucks. The problem is getting a big, large truck down a footpath to get to a village to go the 30 meters. They can't get.
John, I tell you, that's really a powerful video, and thank you for sharing that with us. Absolutely incredible. Yeah. And I learned so much from that video, although I've been going on the African continent for well over 30 years now, but the 30 meters I was not aware of, and thank you for sharing that. Tell us a little bit about the vision and mission of WHOLives, what that acronym actually stands for, and then we're going to really get into the essence of what we're talking about, is getting water to most of the people on the African continent, 1.2 billion people, and most of them actually need access. What's the vision, the mission?
The vision and mission is pretty simple. We want to eradicate this problem of scarce and contaminated water. It's ridiculous that here we are in 2018 and we're still fighting this battle that's been looming since the 50s. We got to get innovative. We got to get aggressive, and we got to solve this thing now.
Now, looking at this photograph, these young girls, you're talking about the 5 gallons. It's about 8.2 pounds per gallon. That's a lot of weight. And you look at the size of these children, and they're actually getting ready to put on probably about a 2.5 to 3 gallon can on top of their head. It's just absolutely amazing. But looking at this baseline, this 30 meters between life and death, for the American audience, John, you know we need to translate what is an actual meter. That's one. But why such an emphatic statement about baseline 30 meters, life and death?
Well, what's amazing, so a meter is just basically a little bit more than a yard, or a little bit more than 3 feet. And so when we're talking about 30 yards, I'm a football guy, that's 3 first downs. That's the distance where the water lies. And so here we have a situation where, in most cases, when there's an epidemic, we don't have a solution. We don't have the medicine to cure the disease that's killing people. But with water, we know what the medicine is. It's clean water. And it's right there. It's 30 meters away. But it might as well be on Mars, because in most cases we can't get to it until now where the village drill. That's the problem. It's just getting to it. It's just frustrating to know that the medicine is so close, but yet it might as well be on another planet.
Yeah, and looking at this watering hole over there, I've been in 17 different countries on the continent, and the water we're looking at is probably better than most of the water I've seen. In some of the villages I've been in, actually they'd be down on the mud end of this, and they're trying to literally wring the moisture out of the mud just to have, you know, a few drops to drink. Breaks your heart. Chris, yeah. I think you have the first question.
Yeah, John, you created WHOLives.org. You know, what prompted you and the board of directors to become involved in these clean water projects in developing countries?
You know, we took a family trip to Africa back in 2010. My son had been there doing some missionary work, and we just went and wanted to see the country. And I guess I knew that there was, you know, water issues in Africa, but I had no idea the extent of the problem. And as I was just observing everything, what I realized was that literally life in Africa revolved around getting water. And it'd be one thing if it was to get clean water or healthy water, but they're gathering, they're fetching this dirty, nasty water, especially in the dry season. You know, the rains, you can see there, the rains, they start subsiding, and it just gets nastier and nastier, you know, the later on in the year it gets. And when I came home on the plane, to be honest with you, I was just mad that here we were, and again, 2010, and our brothers and sisters were living like this. I just thought it was a shame, and we had to do something.
Yeah, and looking at this photograph, and this is what you really see. This is really the rhythm of life in many places on the African continent. You see the women with their buckets, and they've been out. And unfortunately, what goes on around this is, you know, there's rape, murder, robbery, everything that goes on for these women. I mean, it's unbelievable what these women face on a day-to-day basis, the violence they have to go through in order to get a dirty bucket of water. And it's just a shame. And this is what they're actually carrying their water in. This gives you an idea of just the situation that they have there. But going, and I'm going to leave this one up just for a few minutes because this is somewhat of a typical scene. But going to the village drill. What is the village drill? How did that come to your mind as you were traveling in the airplane back to the United States? You were fuming, mad about all this. And I guess that was somewhat of your creative juices going to work, because you're not an engineer.
That's correct. Yeah, my background is finance, and my wife and I, we owned some real estate companies up in Washington State. So I had no engineering background, but I have a little bit of a fiery spot. I have a little bit of a temper sometimes, and when I see some kind of injustice, especially because it was so focused on women and young girls. And as you can see this picture in the background right now, that was my first day in Africa. This is a orphanage in what's called the Soweto slums in Nairobi. And what's interesting about this picture, you'll notice that there is one pitcher of water and one cup. And each of these children were passing this cup around. And I honestly thought it was some sort of a religious sacrament type of thing where everybody was taking a sip and it was like sacrament. And it wasn't until I asked a lot of questions and finally I found out was that pitcher of water cost 35 cents, and that's all the money they had for that day. So these kids were not getting a cup of water for lunch. They were getting a sip of water for lunch. And the reality was, I couldn't even wrap my brain around it. It's like, how is this possible? And so this was the first time in Africa. And after this experience, I just started watching and looking, how is water affecting the lives of this continent?
Yeah, and the whole thing about this too, everything is for water, and you're always looking for water. You're trying to be there. Now, going to the village drill, and we're really setting the stage for later conversations, but you have this group, and you're taking something over there that they had never seen before, and actually you're trying to invent, and not sure exactly what it was you were really inventing.
Well, that's it. I mean, like I think a lot of great inventions, this came to me in a dream. I mean, quite literally, it was the middle of the night, and it was a strong enough dream where it got me out of bed to my kitchen, and I kind of drew out what I could remember. But you know how dreams are, you don't get, they kind of fade kind of fast. So that was kind of the first, what I would call a little miracle in my life. But the second one happened the next day, when I got a call from the engineering department at Brigham Young University asking me if I have a project for them to work on. And I'm like, well, I got this weird idea, and I didn't dare tell them it came in a dream, but I told them about the idea of getting water and on this continent, and it was just an amazing sequence of events. They were actually returning a call that I had made to them 2.5 months earlier. And so, again, the timing was
John, we're going to lose you, buddy, but what do you see for the expansion of the village drill over the next 5, 10, or 15 years? And you got about 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Somebody is going to see this thing that has the ability to share it with the world. We're a small organization. I mean, we're going as far as we can, but we're looking for that big break.
John, I got to cut you off. This is John Renouard, founder and director of WHOLives. Chris Tibbetts right beside me as we create the Emerald Planet.
Gotcha! I surrender!
All right, pal. Get ready for the day, buddy.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. Do we have a gun?
What's that?
Do we have a gun?
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions.
Love it. Mind forward.
Cross-referencing travel sites. And booking all your flights with those...
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like... Aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
I tried Oxy at a couple of parties. I thought I had it under control. I didn't know it'd be this addictive. I didn't know how far I'd go to get more.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. What to expect when you're expecting.
Like here?
A teenager.
Today, I'm going to show you how to teen-proof your home. First step, hide the car keys. Preferably somewhere they would never look. Challenges will come up. Be ready for them. Hi, honey.
I'm ready for the... Mom, you don't use mannequins in the mannequin challenge.
You don't have to know it all to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Here we go, bud.
We're back to the Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a week-to-week basis as we look around the globe for those what we call the best of the best, those 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And of course, we're looking for the people that are providing the leadership, the inspiration, the innovation, and the sustainability to all things that are going on the planet. And we're looking specifically at the continent of Africa, which has gone from about 880 million people in less than 5 years to 1.2 billion people, 1.2 billion people in a short period of time. Because they're estimating it may be by 2025 before it reaches a billion. They're already beyond that. And so one of the critical factors, of course, is water. Water is life. And we have a group that's talking about the WHOLives and water as life. But he couldn't be doing this without Brigham Young University. And there's a gentleman that's coming on. His name is Christopher. He goes by Chris A. Mattson. He's a doctor, assistant professor of mechanical engineering at Brigham Young University. And sitting right beside me, the gentleman that's representing the WHOLives is Christopher Tibbetts. He is a director of global development, water, health, and opportunity lives, WHOLives, and also what's called the Village Drill, which you see in the logo here. So, Dr. Mattson, I understand you're here with us right now by Skype.
Yes, I am. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Glad to have you, and thank you for working with this wonderful nonprofit that's trying to help those that really are at risk on the African continent. And quite honestly, probably half the population, over 500 million people, really need access to good, clean water. And in many cases, they're just not getting it. But tell us a little bit about your mechanical engineering department and the work that you're doing at Brigham Young University, and then we'll talk about how you were led into all of this and what you've been doing with not only helping to develop the Village Drill, but also WHOLives.
Okay, great. We are a private institution located at the base of the Rocky Mountains in beautiful Provo, Utah. We've got 1,200 students in the mechanical engineering program, and our goal in the program is to train these students to become engineers of influence that make a big impact in the world.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this, and I have this schematic up here, and it tells a little bit about what is called the Village Drill. We saw the logo there. But why and how did BYU, also your mechanical engineering department, and then your capstone program, which is made up of some of your senior students, how did you get involved in the development and the testing and also really manufacturing this? What's this thing that's called the Village Drill?
We have a senior design program, and that program is for all mechanical engineering students, all electrical engineering students, and all manufacturing engineering students at Brigham Young University. What we do is we get about 50 projects from around the world, a few of which are developing world projects, and we have sponsorships from companies that make an academic donation, and with that donation, we're able to run a design team. And the design team's got, 5 to 6 people on the team working on a real project with a real customer, with real needs and real problems.
Well, what we're showing here are people that have real needs and real problems. By far, you can't really call them customers. These are people that are in dire need. And if you look at this, what you would call water, it really turns your stomach almost. But yet at the same time, what you're doing is you're providing something very useful, and I'm going to let Chris Tibbetts to ask the first question about that.
So Dr. Mattson, what, share with us what 3 of the biggest challenges in the design in the evolving of the Village Drill.
I think the first one is to really kind of recognize that before the Village Drill existed, there wasn't a person that thought it would be possible for people to stand around a wheel, kind of push it and drill 250 feet into the earth. And probably the biggest challenge was battling the doubt and the uncertainty that it could be done. And I think the important part to remember here is that the stakes are high. Right? We're talking about water. We're not talking about an ergonomic keyboard or something like that. We're talking about people's water, and the fear of failing, I think, was really, really a big deal for this team.
Yeah, looking at this, and we're putting this up, this is actually one that's functioning. We're going to show some of the component parts in just a minute. But what are at least 3 of the special capabilities and components of the Village drill, which is just so different and unique? And how are you able to overcome this idea? It's kind of like, you know, running the 100-yard dash and how you get it under 4 seconds. When you do it, then everybody can do it. But the whole thing is, what is so special about this that it's just never been done before?
So there are some other manual borehole drilling methods, but they don't go the depth that the Village drill goes. So the Village drill has this ability to operate in this window right between kind of hand augering and these professional style rigs. And so it's really filled a niche in the market that wasn't being fulfilled in any other way, and it's popular.
And we have a video, and I wanted you to get this up and kind of give some background, because this is so unique that if you see it, you're really not sure what's going on with all this. So we have a video, and now it's going to explain some of this, and then Dr. Mattson will be right back with you.
11% of the world's population does not have access to clean water.
A lot of people think that there's not a lot of water in Africa, but in reality there's plenty of water, but it's 30, 40, 50 meters below the ground, and so getting to it is the problem.
The Village drill was a capstone project. The directive from WHOLives.org was make a machine that will get access to water 250 feet below the surface, using primarily human power. There were a number of people who thought it would be impossible.
When we first got the assignment, I had never worked on drills before, and so that was kind of daunting.
The fact that we were all inexperienced was a blessing, so we could think out of the box. So it started with a drill bit attached to a metal rod. The next was a wooden structure that we took and drilled back behind one of the engineering buildings.
We only got, maybe 6 inches into the ground, went back to the drawing board.
We then drilled a couple feet over near Kiwanis Park. We drilled a hole in our professor's backyard.
As the development process often is, you learn more and more, little by little. You end up with something pretty successful, and that's what happened to the Village drill.
So the final device is a cantilever beam structure.
This is our human-powered drill. The yellow wheel acts like a flywheel, which means that once you get it going, it wants to keep going.
Through just a lot of hard work and quite frankly, inspiration, they came up with the Village drill, and there's just nothing like it in the world.
I tell you, this is just really fantastic, Dr. Mattson, and I'm glad that you were willing to take the risk yourself, your reputation, and allow this to really happen. But going on, how is the Village drill really changing, and I don't want to use a pun, but we will, the landscape as far as getting water to people in dire need on the African continent? And we must say, Dr. Mattson, this could be used with Native American tribal areas around the United States. There are many villages in the United States that actually needs to be using this.
Yeah, there are now 38 countries in the world that are using the Village drill. That's 17% of the world's countries. That's a big deal. What's going on with this? When people see the Village drill in action, it's different than when a rig is in action. When they see a rig in action, they don't say to themselves, hey, I can do this. But when they see the Village drill, this is something that they feel like they can participate in and be a community member and help drill a hole, and that's what's happening. I think that's one of the magics, so to speak, of the Village drill.
Chris, I believe you have the next question.
Yeah, so Dr. Mattson, why the equation of appropriate technology plus low investment plus high impact equals increased water with the Village drill? And how can this bring sustainable opportunities and better health at-risk communities worldwide?
Well, basically, you just gave the equation for sustainable design. And the bottom line is that many of us aren't well practiced at sustainable design. And with the village drill, we did it right that way. We got something that was economic. We got something that the society wanted and could deal with, and that was good to the environment. And it's led to something sustainable.
Yeah, the reason I'm leaving this photograph up, this is one of your students that actually gave his whole body for research and development. But after you drilled the first one, this was the experiment you did in Tanzania, and we have a number of people watching from Tanzania as we speak, Dr. Mattson. And tell us about this. What are we seeing in this photograph, which goes to the heart and spirit of your students that you have in this capstone in your mechanical engineering department?
You're seeing the great Ken Langley in this picture, and we were on our first trip here to Tanzania, and there's a certain amount of pressure that is pumped down the borehole to bring the cuttings back up, and we lost one of our fittings and blew a bunch of water everywhere, and Ken and the group and the camera equipment and everything got covered, and that's just how it goes.
Well, I just think it's fantastic, and this is actually what we're looking for right here, is actually getting down through there. The village drill has done its job, and now you're starting to see water. But looking at this, this is the people lining up, believing that you actually have something that's going to work. What was the feeling among your team as you're there? You got the villagers just surrounding you. They're bringing their whatever container they have for water, and they wanted to make sure this thing was going to work. And
the African people are so beautiful and so wonderful, and they were supportive. Of course, it made the team feel awesome, made us feel like the work we had put into the village drill was worth it, and boy, was it. I believe it was really worth it for these people.
We're gonna lose you shortly. What do you see for the growth and expansion of the village drill, say, over the next 5, 10, or 15 years?
We're going to see more water for more people. This is a huge deal. The village drill has already produced enough water to give everyone on planet Earth a 2-liter bottle of water. I think that's a big deal. We need community partners. We need people who are going to help keep those pumps functioning, because that's really a big deal, keeping the maintenance on those pumps.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that my Rotary International, we've put thousands of wells all over the African continent. And they say about 75% of those are not functional after 6 months. So keeping them going is really a big deal. This is Dr. Chris A. Mattson. He's the Associate Professor, Mechanical Engineering, Brigham Young University. Right beside me is Chris Tibbetts, Director of Global Development for WHOLives and the Village Drill. Thank you for being with us as we show this miracle, and you see water physically coming out of this push pump as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
So how was work?
It was 1,300 hours. My math class from 302 was in the trenches. Davy Roth had it the worst. Fractions were coming at him left and right. He just didn't get the damn things. 2 days ago, I tried to teach him what 1/4 of 1/2 was using different sizes of blocks. Yesterday, I tried again by dividing up pizza. Both missions failed.
Oh, no.
But today, I was ready. I created a combat math game where the only way to beat the enemy is to out-fraction them. Davy conquered every last denominator. My game was so successful, the principal is deploying it to math squadrons all over the school. Anywho, how was your day?
Oh, today my boss treated the office to salad wraps.
Salad wraps.
I know.
150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
We're back to the Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet. As we're looking around the globe, specifically on the African continent, looking at the whole notion and the finding and providing water. There's 1.2 billion people now on the African continent, almost 250 million in the last 5 years have been added to the population base. Many of these are in urban areas, but without basic infrastructure as far as water, sanitation, many others. And then in the rural areas, many people are having to move because of climate change and the impact as far as the drying of the land and the soil. But yet what they're finding is that there's still plenty of water below the surface. And so that's what we're talking about. And we're going to be talking about two students that actually literally are just back from the country of Uganda, working on a special project called the Village Drill, and how to find this water within, as they say, 30 meters, or roughly 90 to 100 feet. Danny O. Smith and Victoria Baird, they are Design Exploration Group Assistants, part of a capstone program at Brigham Young University. And sitting right beside us, one of the catalysts for this whole project is Chris Tibbetts. He is the Director of Global Development for Water, Health, and Opportunity to Live, which is called WHOLives and the Village Drill. And the two students will be coming in by Skype, and let's see if they're ready. Danny and Victoria, are you here?
We are right here.
All right, welcome. Victoria, I hear your voice, and welcome, Danny. Danny, I'm going to start off with you if you don't mind, and the two of you were actually over on the African continent, and we're talking about that. And I've been there a number of times myself. And so anyway, tell us, our viewers, a little bit about Brigham Young University and what you learned as far as higher education through Brigham Young, which really is advanced education, but also practical application.
Definitely. Being at Brigham Young University has been a wonderful experience. It's one of the largest private universities in the U.S., and I've just noticed that the professors really take an interest in our education. They invest in the students' learning. And especially I can speak for the mechanical engineering department because that was my major. Our senior year, we have a 2-semester long project that's sponsored by different companies called the Capstone Project. And that just gives such application for the engineering principles we've been learning for 4 years.
I tell you, I think it's fantastic. Victoria, obviously you're a woman, mechanical engineering, and that's would be considered a non-traditional profession. Yet Brigham Young University seems to really be grooming women to go out to communicate, to be leaders, but also to have the technical skills that they need in order to take us forward into the 21st century. So what are you seeing through the mechanical engineering department that really suits you, your personality, but also your vision for your future?
Well, I have to say, I'm not sure that being a woman actually changes much. I think that it really is an individual basis. For me, I have loved that BYU realizes that diversity is the best way to move forward.
Well, I think that's absolutely fantastic. And Chris, why don't you ask the next question?
Yeah, Danny, what drew your dedication and talents to the Village Drill project?
Well, at the beginning of this last school year, I had the opportunity to rate the different projects that were available, and there were over 40 really interesting projects from different companies, from, I mean, a sensor that tells you if you left your baby in a hot car, or improving the aerodynamics of a train. But this project really stuck out to me because I've always wanted to use my engineering education to improve the quality of lives of others. And this project, the impact was just so apparent, and especially in a developing world kind of situation.
Now, go ahead. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
Nope. Thank
Okay. Victoria, looking at this through the mechanical engineering department, you were actually over in Uganda. Literally, you just came back from there, but you have what's called the Sub-T. This is the next generation as far as the village drill is concerned. And what is it doing for you as far as your technical skills, communications, and leadership to be involved in something that really is unique and it has no replication in other parts of the world for right now?
I have to say that being on an engineering team here at BYU on a real project where the answers aren't in the back of the book has really, it's brought out some of the best qualities, but also I think it showed me some of my best weaknesses, or worst weaknesses really, to learn how to work with other engineers to figure out how to use the strengths of each member of the team and how to meet your strengths with their strengths and to build the best possible product or anything that you may come across, a solution for people that may not have the means themselves. And it really meant a lot to be able to do this for them.
Now, Danny, looking at the village drill itself, this is something that actually is being used around the globe. It's proven to be very successful as far as, you know, the initial design, but yet you got involved in this new style and new size as far as the drill is concerned, called the Sub-T. Why did you want to get involved specifically with this project, and how do you think, just like Victoria was just sharing how that she learned, you know, the best, and also some of the areas that need to be addressed as far as, you know, her skills and communications and leadership. How do you think this not only tested your technical skills, but also teamwork, communications, and other aspects of your personality that's actually helping you, that's going to make you a better mechanical engineer in the future?
Well, to the first part of that question, why I got involved in this project, I really bought into John's vision that we not only want to get the village drill and these wells.
Now I'm going to interject here. That's John Renouard, the president, founder, and director for WHOLives. Okay, go ahead.
Right, that we want to get these drills not only to well-intentioned NGOs and others who want to go and give people clean water, but let's get these drills to the locals and give them opportunity to build their livelihood off of it and provide clean water for their community and their neighbors. So that was easy to get on that train. As far as for my growth, working with these 4 other student engineers and working with our coach and other professors, I would definitely echo what Victoria has said, as well as it has really taught me to listen to what other people's ideas, because I don't have them all. I don't have all the right answers, and that's helped me to listen to others better and recognize that we can all work together and synthesize to build a better product, a better solution.
If you've learned that concept and that truth, you're about 30 years ahead of most adults. So you're learning at a very young age. Chris, I think you have the next question.
Yeah, Victoria, I think this is your first trip to Africa. So why did you personally see the urgency to bring clean water and work in these areas that, you know, in Uganda, and you know, what experience, you know, have you learned from the village drill's newest technology? Or what have you learned from that?
So I agree with Danny on the reason why I originally came out here. It was to make a difference for each one of these people But when I was there, I had the chance to have conversations with them, to really learn about their hopes, their dreams, and they dream so big. They have so many things that they want to do with their lives, but to know that so many of them are spending hours going to get water, and I mean, nearly, you know, breaking as I was shaking trying to carry those jugs that you see in this picture, was heartbreaking. It was terrible. I mean, I wanted to help in such a way that they can use it there, they can take it across the country. I wanted to see them make something better of where they're at. They can not only get water themselves, but they can help other people in the process. They can not only start a business themselves, but they can make themselves independent of their just basic needs. They're basically slaves to water, as I've heard it put before.
Very important. We have a video that's going to give us a recap of all this. Let's put that up now, and then we're going to be able to finalize this. Let's have the video.
Arriving in Tanzania, it was immediately apparent the need for our project.
People that had to walk 7 miles to get water.
Anytime we were operating the drill, there was a crowd around, and they understood what we were doing, and they were excited for it.
We'd been drilling at the site for 4 days. It was hot. We went to disconnect a pipe, and we had water coming out of the pipe.
It was a little celebration.
That's it!
Everyone was giving high fives and cheering.
It was a great feeling. It's like, man, we've done it. There's something special here.
The village drill design is simple. It's straightforward. It's a fraction of the cost.
It far surpasses any manual drill, and in a lot of respects, even the huge motorized drills. We tested the drill in Africa, and we had phenomenal success. And what we're able to do is find out that this drill works everywhere. Here we are 5-6 years into.
This is absolutely fantastic. We're running out of time, but this is just really magnificent, Chris. And kudos to everybody there, you know, as far as WHOLives and the Village Drill for doing all of this. And this is what it actually looks like on the ground. And I tell you, it's just as phenomenal. But what do you see for the expansion of this over the next 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, I think we've only scratched the surface, Sam. I think over the next 5-10 years, as more people recognize the power of the village drill and what its capabilities are, I think we're going to see a whole new wave of good health coming from the village drill.
Yeah, and I think this whole thing, the intersect between the health, the opportunities within that, and also bringing water is just absolutely incredible as we create the Emerald Planet.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
Being a dad is an adventure full of special moments.
A cruise!
Right.
Unexpected moments.
I got this.
And even awkward moments.
Okay, Dad, thank you.
But every moment you spend with your kids, even the smallest moments, can make the biggest impact on your child's life. So take a moment to be a dad today.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
We're back to the Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, and the processes as we go through the 21st century. And of course, we're looking for the people that are reaching out to communities to identify actual needs and how to be innovative and then be able to develop something that's sustainable, resilient, and that will go forward into the future. And we have a gentleman sitting right beside me. This is Christopher. He goes by Chris Tibbetts. He's the Director of Global Development for what's called Water, Health, and Opportunity Lives. WHOLives is the short name for that, and the Village Drill. And he's working in an appropriate technology, and we're going to start off with a short video clip, and that's going to set the stage for the conversation that I'm going to have with Chris. So if we can show the video, please. I tell you, this is incredible.
It is.
And they're having way too much fun. This is supposed to be real work.
It's a lot of fun.
And the whole thing about it, I've actually, on our ranch, we had to go out and try to get some water, water for the cattle and all that. It was never fun, believe me. And sometimes we had to go quite a few feet down in order to get it. But tell us a little bit about this, this special design, the Village Drill.
Yeah.
What really is it? We saw it at the end, quick clip, but it looks like something that really is working, and it's very helpful to these communities, obviously, on the African continent and other places around the globe that have a dire need for water.
Yeah, it really is helping. The things that really set the Village Drill apart from other methods that we're familiar with is its portability, Sam. 75% of the people that need water, we can't reach them with the big drill trucks. They get stuck in the mud. There's no improved roads. So that's really what sets the Village Drill apart is we can take it apart, we can canoe it up a river like we did in the Congo a couple of years ago, and it takes about an hour to put together, and generally within 5 to 7 hours we have reached water. That's really what sets the Village Drill apart is its portability.
Yeah, and looking at this scene here, this is typical. I've been in over 17 different countries on the African continent, and you see this really everywhere. Women are going to areas, surface water, it's dirty, the cattle have already been there.
Yep.
Somebody's washing in one end, you're drawing your drinking water. Somebody in between is brushing their teeth, going to the bathroom. I mean, all of this is happening around this one open ditch in many cases. And so the fact that you can bring something that's going to help people like this that have a real need, and tell us the story about this. This is your personal story.
Well, I've spent over 20 years in Africa, and 20 years ago, almost to the date, I had some things happen to me. An event happened. A young mother came into camp asking for medicine for her young child who had diarrhea. And I couldn't find any medicine that would have helped. 3 days later, we ran into that same mom, and she was just leaving her son's funeral. So that young baby died of dehydration because of bad water.
Yeah, yeah, you know, and there's millions that die every year because of the lack of, you know, good, clean, or any water, and half of those are children under 5, 50%. And it's over, you know, 1.5, almost 1.7 million children are dying on the continent every year from the lack of water or drinking, you know, dirty water. So looking at this is how many of them are going out. Many of these are women, females, young females are having to go out. They're carrying very heavy loads on their heads. They're not in school, all these things. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, water really affects everything. When these young girls are enslaved, and they really, Sam, are enslaved to fetching
But they're slave
water.
to water, right?
They're slave to water. If they don't get it, they die. So they have to walk, sometimes 10 kilometers round trip daily, day in and day out. By the time they're done fetching that water, there's no time to go to school. They're worn out to try to go to school. So when we can provide them that baseline of water, where they don't have to walk and fetch, they can go to school. We already have the data. The data shows us that there's a 30% increase in school attendance with these young girls that no longer have to fetch water.
Yeah, and the whole thing about this too is nutrition, is that because they don't have the water, they have no way to irrigate or water the gardens or the fields. They can't, in many cases, actually provide water for the cattle, which in many African nations, the mainstay of their diet and also their income is off of some type of cattle. And that can be sheep, goats, cows, camels, horses, whatever it is, but they don't have it. But in comes the village drill. Now, what's so special about this thing? When you're looking at this, it's very pretty. It's blue and yellow. I think there's a reason for the blue and yellow. But, you know, this contraption, what really is it, and how is it so revolutionary?
Yeah, it's so simple in its design. That's one of the other remarkable things about it. There are very few failure points. So unlike big drill trucks, they're just not going to break down. And the fact of the matter is the drill just gets the job done. We can go down nearly 300 feet through clays, sands, substrates, water-bearing rock. We can go anywhere and drill anywhere that a big truck can drill, and a lot of places they can't.
I was going to say, you're going a whole lot of places that they can't get out to, because I've been around those rigs, and they weigh tons.
They do.
And if you look at this terrain you have here, it would be very difficult to get out there. But looking at this as far as the village drill is concerned itself, this is really your project. You're working on this for WHOLives, but it's versatile. It's inexpensive, it's all these other kinds of things, but let's talk about the environmental impact or the lack of environmental impact that the village drill has on these communities. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this
that's what really caught my attention, and then you're applying water to that.
Yeah, the carbon footprint is zero because we are using human power to power this drill, and so you know, that's one thing that sets the drill apart, and you know, the sustainability factor. When we can go in and reach 75% of the locations that haven't been reached before, that's a game changer in and of itself. There are many people that are just forgotten out there, Sam.
Yeah, and looking at this the line of buckets, I'm going to go back. This is village drill going in. Human power is actually putting in, and I think you said it takes about an hour to set up, and you have water within about 7 hours roughly?
Yeah, roughly 7 hours after we get started drilling, we've struck water.
Now let's ask this question. How do you know there's water actually where the drill is setting?
Yeah, great question. Well, I'll tell you, there's some new revolutionary technology that's come out. It's been around actually for quite some time, but we're using it now at this level that will actually show us and tell us where the aquifers are located. We know that the African continent is full of water underneath our feet, but this new seismic disruption technology allows us to zero in exactly where we should be placing that drill.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. So no dry holes, and this is something that I know we've been working in Mali and several other countries, and that's one of the things. You're going to pay the same amount for, you know, per foot if you're using a big rig, because they drive out there and you have a contract, and if it's dry, tough luck.
Right.
And if they do 3 more, you're going to pay for, you know, 3 times all of that. So that's really great that you have a way to finding out. But going back to the buckets, tell us about the buckets and why this scene that we're looking at here really is, in a sense, Africa.
That's the bucket of life. You know, without that bucket is the most precious possession that they have, because that bucket is life. And without it, there is no survival. But unfortunately, that bucket, day after day after day, is filled with dirty, contaminated water that makes these kids sick.
Yeah, and this is the whole thing about, you know, children under 5, 50% of, you know, the deaths on the continent are coming from children of that age. And you look at how small these children are and how big those buckets. I mean, these buckets almost are half the size of these children. And of course, you have the village well and behind it, and they're lining up for the water. Now, normally, what would they be doing right now if they weren't able to have the village drill and line up near where they live? What would they be doing?
They would be enslaved, Sam. They would be enslaved to fetching water day in and day out. That is what their whole life revolves around. Our lives revolve around water, we just don't know it. So it completely changes the dynamic, and as you put, the landscape of their entire lives.
Yeah, and you're looking at this village, and this is where they actually, you know, they're working in order to put this well in. And this really does, having been in 17 different countries in the African continent, I can tell you something like this, which I just was introduced, you know, through the Global Summit on Africa here in Washington, D.C. I mean, this is a life changer and all that. So looking at this, we're just about out of time. What do you see in the eyes of this young woman that now she can actually, they've drilled the well, they've got, it's encased, it's going to be clean. What is she going to experience as different than her older sisters, her mom, her grandmother, great-grandmothers experienced?
I think this is the well of hope, Sam. I really think that's what these water wells do, is they give people hope that they're no longer going to be enslaved. They can go to school, they can get an education. This is life, water.
Yeah, and I tell you, these bush pumps are everywhere, and they work really well. And here's a lady that's going back, and this is what we're really looking for. What do you see for the expansion? And you got to be quick.
Yeah, I think you know, 5-10 years down the road, you're going to see thousands of village drills all throughout the bush, hard at work, providing clean water.
That's fantastic. This is Christopher Tibbetts. He's the Director of Global Development for what's called Water, Health, and Opportunity Lives, Who Lives, and the Village Drill. Thank you for being with us. Water for the African continent as we create the Emerald Planet.